Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. It's been a while since I've posted on my YouTube channel and honestly on my TikToks too, just because I have been in such a reading slump and I've been so busy with like my outside of reading, well, just like normal life. I have tried so many different books to get me out of the slump and nothing has worked for about like 2 months. So I just haven't been wanting to talk about books or anything book related, but I've been missing posting on YouTube and on TikTok, but mostly YouTube because I just love like the community that there is more so on YouTube. I was thinking recently about how single I am and how I crave the romance that I find in books, but there are specifically some books that I have felt like this is what true love is. These are the couples that I think about constantly. I strive to build scenarios in my head late at night before I'm falling to bed to these books. The things that I read in these books that I'm going to tell you is what I think about before I fall asleep, or if I wake up from a dream and I need to go back to sleep, this is what I think about the love that I need in my life in order to fall back to sleep and have the best sleep of my life. These couples, no matter what genre they're in, makes me feel warm and fuzzy. I am giggling and kicking my feet on words on a paper. These people aren't real, but they're making me feel these emotions that are real, and the correlation between the two is making me have a negative effect. That is love real, or is it just like poetry and not tangible? You know? Anyways, not to get philosophical or anything. Now, majority of them are contemporary romances, but there are actually a few dark romances in there that I'm just like, I have to throw in because I love them so much. And it's also hard with dark romances with love because I feel like a lot of the dark romances that I've read are more so lust and then love. I truly feel like the ones that I'm recommending are slow burn love. Maybe not so much slow burn, because is there really a slow burn dark romance? I've never found one. I'm gonna jump right in and just start talking about my favorite couples that made me believe in true love. The first one that I want to recommend is Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez. It is, I'm pretty sure this is my favorite book. Like every video I talk about it because it's just so good. The things that I learned about myself is amazing in this book. Everyone can take something from this book, whether you love it or you hate it. It's gonna call you out. It's gonna make you dig deep in yourself, in the people that you surround yourself with, what you crave in friendships, relationships. It'll make you want to do a deep dive of your life and reevaluate all your life choices, because that's what it did to me. This follows Emma and Justin. Justin posts on this Reddit saying that he is cursed in his love life. He will date a girl for a while, they break up, she goes on to find the love of her life. Well, Emma sees this and messages him and she's like, dude, that happens to me too. What is the deal? What's that about? So they make a deal to date for just a summer, to do all of the relationshipy activities that they do in a normal relationship, break up at the end of summer, and then they go on to find the loves of their life. The loves of their lives? Love of their lives. Loves of their lives. Tells you how long I've been out of school. Emma is a traveling nurse. She's always kind of been like a flighty person, doesn't like to stay in one place for a long time. Justin has been given a huge responsibility, one that he was not prepared for. They have to figure their own lives out, but also they see that this relationship wasn't going to be what they originally thought it was going to be. It's a lot deeper. So I really enjoyed this book. I think also the friendships and the found family. This is such a great found family book. If you love that trope, I highly recommend this book. And the reason why I talk about it being like true love is it shows not everything is like a storybook. Not everything is a fairy tale. Not everything is like this beautiful fantasy lovey-dovey relationship. There are going to be trials, there is going to be tribulations, there are going to be roadblocks, sacrifice certain things in their lives to compromise, but it's how you persevere in that relationship. And that's what hit me like a brick. So Twisted Games by Anna Huang. This is probably the only book in the series where I think it's like true, authentic love between the two characters. I love Stella and Christian, but there's a lot of secrets, there's a lot of like mystery between their relationship with Reese and Bridget. I just find it just so breath of fresh air kind of relationship. Like all the rest of them are actually super toxic except for this one, and I think that's why I want to talk about how it's like true love. Also the content in this book, we have a like forced proximity, age gap. He is her bodyguard because she is a princess of this foreign country. There's crazy tension. People say this is a slow burn. This is not a slow burn. Action starts happening like before the 50% mark, so that's not a slow burn to me. Also, there's a time jump, so that is another thing that doesn't qualify this as a slow burn. The will and the drive and the desire that they have to make their relationship work, like they are going against all odds in this book. And the way that they fight for their relationship, I'm obsessed. I'm obsessed. There's no toxicness about this. Like, I love Christian and I love his little toxicness, but Reese is just on a whole nother level. He's perfect. This follows Bridget. She goes to college with her 4 friends. It's in DC. She has her bodyguard that she's had forever. I think he like is reassigned or retires or something, so she gets Reese as her new bodyguard. There's tension. He follows her around. He gets jealous. Time jump happens. She then has to become queen of her country. She's no longer a princess. She needs to become queen. So she goes back to her country and has to really dive in on royalty responsibilities. Reese is still her bodyguard. It's just like the tension and the things that this man says is just like top tier. The next one is another book, a part of a series. Again, now that I'm thinking about it, you know what? Words. Okay. The next book that I'm going to recommend is part of a series, and that is part of the Chestnut Spring series. This is Reckless by Elsie Silver, cowboy romance. Now, my favorite book in the series is Willa and Cade. That's Heartless. That's the second one in the series. I love them, but when I was thinking about true love, for some reason Theo and Winter is what stood out more to me than Cade and Willa. And I do love Cade and Willa. Like, I'm telling you, the things that Cade does for Willa, the things that Willa does for Cade, they are such a great yin and yang balance. But when I was thinking of true love and like sacrifice, desire, and yearning, this is what I chose. This follows Theo. He is the prodigy of Rhett, who is the main male character in the first book. They are professional bull riders. The FMC in this book is Winter. She is the half-sister to Summer, who is the female main character in the first book with Rhett. Theo and Winter meet, and Theo is automatically obsessed with Winter. He wants her so bad. He literally barks for her. And if you haven't read that, you're probably like, what? But it works in the book. Trust me. They have a one-night stand. She finds out that she's pregnant. They eventually reconnect, and they're trying to co-parent, trying to figure out where they're at in building a relationship with one another when it comes to co-parenting and trying to figure out how it all works. Also, Winter is a doctor and she's super like hyper independent, and Theo, all he wants to do is just be there for Winter. As a hyper independent person, I love the things that Theo does for Winter in this book, because he just does everything for her, and the things that he says to protect her from other people, I'm just like, one man in this world that's single has to exist for me too. Like, it's so unfair that these book men written by women aren't real. So that's great. The next book that I want to talk about is Love Theoretically by Ali Hazelwood. This was was this my first book? It's either my first or second book that I listened by her. Love this audiobook. I was obsessed that I needed to buy the physical copy of it and like reread it. But Jack, the things, oh my gosh, like, these men are perfect. All of these men are like in my top 10. This follows Jack and Elsie. They are both physicists, but one is a theoretical physicist and one is a experimental physicist. And that in physicist world is rivals. Elsie's trying to apply for this job because she's running low on money. On her side gig that she does, she has this dating app and she'll go out with these men as like she's like their fake girlfriend. She does that on the side. She applies for this job at this university. One of the guys on the board is Jack. He is a experimental physicist and also the older brother to one of the clients that she dates. Fake dates. And he's like, what are you doing? You're a librarian. What are you doing applying for this job? So he doesn't trust her, thinks that she's lying to his younger brother. Basically, he's the one that's ultimately going to decide whether or not she gets this university job. This man is so observant. He pays attention to the little things. It's another acts of service man, tall, nerdy, but also has tattoo. Like, and he's blonde. So you know, like, he must be so good if he's one of my top 10 boyfriends and he's blonde. I just love this because it's another like wholesome book where they get to know one another and secrets are revealed, things happen. It's another great book. Beach Read by Emily Henry. This follows Gus and January. They went to the same college, they were in the same major, they competed constantly in college, and even after graduating college they continue to compete with one another in their professional careers. They're both writers, so they have to compete on the best-selling list, all of that. So January does not like Gus at all. January finds out some secrets about her family, tries to dive in a little bit deeper into her family's past, goes to this town that her dad has a house in. Well, her dad has passed away, so she's trying to clean out some things at his house temporarily for this short period of time, and her next door neighbor happens to be Gus. They are both going through this writer's block, so they decide to make a bet. They decide to switch genres. January is a contemporary romance, lovey-dovey writer, while Gus is more of the gory vibes of book writing. It's a forced proximity, small town romance. Because of this bet, they have to hang out with one another to do a deep dive into their mind to figure out how they take the route that they take when writing. I find it highly entertaining. The banter that they have is so funny. Emily Henry is one of my favorite, if not my favorite author. She just always hits it on the head with every book that she writes. Not every book is going to be perfect, but writing style, the story, the underlining tones that she chooses to write with each book, the relationships, the dynamics, like it's so good. Now we're gonna go into the dark romance category. We're no longer in the contemporary romance, so I will give you an explanation on why these dark romance couples are my favorites. I'm not just gonna be like, Zayd and Adeline, not to yuck on someone's yum, because people do love that book, but that's not the route that I'm going to be going. The first book that I want to talk about is Butcher and Blackbird by Bryn Weaver. This is not everyone's cup of tea, and I didn't know how I was going to react about this book and its content, just because it's a dark romance. It's about serial killers, but also I heard it's funny and it's like super comical, so I was very confused going in on what exactly I was going to get from this book. But when I first started reading, after I got past the trigger warning pages, I realized I really enjoy this book, and I heard that the audiobook is actually really good too. You can hear the tone and the comic timing between the narrators, and it's a duet audiobook narration, which is the best for me because it's always weird when I hear guys trying to do a girl's voice or a girl's trying to do guys, and I'm like, huh? This is about Sloane and Rowan. Sloane finds herself in a predicament at the beginning of this book, and Rowan helps her. They get to know one another for a little bit and then decide to make a bet, like an annual bet, to choose one person, one really, really bad serial killer. They have to compete in killing this serial killer. So they're serial killers who kill serial killers. So like, they're not bad. They're saving other people. They're just also choose an interesting line of work that I can't judge. Rowan is immediately obsessed with Sloane, but Sloane is a very flighty person. If you scare her or if any feelings are detected, she will bolt. She is a bolter. So Rowan takes a very slow approach to trying to get Sloane to fall for him, and he is an acts of service man. He does anything to protect her. He will do anything for her. He takes his time. If you love an acts of service man and you love a little dark romance with comedy, I highly recommend this book, truly. The things that he does for Sloane, I'm just like gasping. My mouth is open because I'm swooning. I'm swooning for a man. Well, period. Like, what? I haven't read the second book or the third book. I have them. I need to get into the right headspace to read Bryn Weaver's books because, like I said, the trigger warning pages, the content that's in the book, like, I can never eat cookies and cream ice cream ever again because of this book. I look at things from a different point of view now. And I heard that some other things will be ruined in the other books, so I do need to put myself in a correct headspace when I'm going to read these books. So the next one is my favorite book series that I've ever read in any genre, personally. And granted, I haven't read many like long series. Like I've never read Throne of Glass. Throne of Glass. I always want to say grass. I don't even know. I haven't read that, and I heard that's like everyone's favorite. It could change, but this is definitely my favorite series that I've ever read, and it just happens to be dark romance. This follows Lana. She is the main character in this book. She went through a very traumatic event in her life. Because of that, she is now out for revenge. She has taken years and years of meticulous planning to get this revenge journey going. And the things that she thought through, and I'm just like, this girl is so smart. Like, she's perfect. Then you have Logan. He is a FBI agent, think Hotch, but like younger. He is like the head agent of the profiling unit at the FBI. They start dating, and he doesn't know that his new girlfriend that he's dating is one of the serial killers that they're trying to catch. Oh my god, I think Logan is blonde too. Or like dirty blonde. I will forever be a Lana stan. I love this woman so much. She is so incredibly intelligent. The things that you learned about her past and what she had to go through growing up and then trying to recover from this traumatic event like broke my heart as if she was a real person. I was laughing, I was crying, I felt anger, all encompassing just every emotion I could possibly feel I felt while reading this book. It is perfect. It looks crazy. It looks really thick. I mean, it is really thick, but it is a series in one book. So there's 5 books in one, so that's why it is thick. But each book, I believe, is like 200, 300 pages maybe. This put me in such a bad slump. After reading it, I was like, where do I go to now? I would want everyone to read this, especially if you're like a crime junkie or love Criminal Minds. I love Criminal Minds, so I think that's why I lean towards this book series. And I love this woman, and I love Logan. He is such a great book boyfriend to Lana. I have no issues. This book, like this series, is perfection. The next 2 that I want to talk about are 2 that I read on my Kindle. I also want to show off my Kindle cover that I got. It's cherries with pink bows on them. I got these throw pillows at TJ Maxx the other day. I mean, that is just perfection right there. My space is slowly turning into like cottage coastal grandmother, and I'm not mad about that at all because I've been secretly a grandma since I was like 9. The first series that I want to talk about that I read on my Kindle was the Devil's Night series, specifically Kill Switch by Penelope Douglas. This couple is polar opposites. You have sweet, innocent, beautiful Winter. Oh, another Winter. Okay. And on the opposite far end of this spectrum, you have Damon, who is psychopathic, possessive, territorial, psychopathic. They are in this relationship. Starting the Devil's Night series, I was like, girls who say that they love Damon Torrance, you scare me, you terrify me, because why? Why? I don't get it. Reading the first book, reading the second book, the things that he did was absolutely terrifying, and then learning about certain things, like, oh my god, like, I don't want to give anything away, but if you've read the series, you know, like, he is terrible, absolutely terrible, scary in the first and second book, and then when you get to his book, not that I condone anything that he had done in the first and second, but you go through his past, what he went through as a child. He has the worst parents in the whole entire world. The environment that he grew up in, I'm just glad that he's not real, because I literally, when I learned about his backstory, I wanted to throw my Kindle against the wall, and then I remembered it's a Kindle and not a physical book, and I don't want to break it, so I did not do that. I had felt so much rage and so much sorrow when reading, and it's kind of like the Mind F series too, where you feel all of these different emotions, where you're laughing, you're crying, you feel rage for a character that doesn't even exist. That's how impactful like these different writing styles are to me, where you literally feel so much emotions for a person that is words on a paper. Isn't that crazy? That's wild to me. I really fell in love with Damon. You really get into the mind of him and who he is, what he went through, how he views winter. I also love flashbacks in books. I think it's one of my favorite. I don't even know if it's like a micro trope or anything. It's just a different writing style that authors do. But I love flashbacks in books, like a present tense, and then you get a flashback of however years or months ago, and then you get to the next chapter and it's present tense and different POVs also. I love. It's the only time that I actually care about what a man thinks or says is in a book. I love winter and I love Damon. They're so pure when they're with one another. Damon has gone through so much in his life, but when he's with winter, it's like all focus is on winter. Every thought that he has ever had is about winter. Especially another thing that I love in books is when a man like hates everyone except for her. And I'm seeing like another trend in some of these books where it's like he doesn't like anyone except for his girl and will do anything for his girl. And the last book that I'm going to talk about is another book in a series, and that is The Maddest Obsession by Danielle Laurie. I just finished it a few days ago and it definitely got me out of my reading slump, so I'm very excited to now persevere and start reading books again. Literally love that book so much. I gave it 5 stars. I was obsessed with Elena and Nico's story. They are the first book in the series. I believe it's called the Made Men series. Their book, Elena and Nico's book, is called what is it? The Sweetest Oblivion. I did not know kind of what Gianna and Christian's storyline was going to be because I loved Elena and Nico so much. The only thing is like their miscommunication I hated, so that's why I didn't give it 5 stars. I think I gave it 4.5 stars. Going into the second book, I was so excited. I was not expecting anything from this book. I gave this book 5 stars. I'm obsessed. I'm literally in the book title, The Maddest Obsession. That's me with this book. If I don't have a man like Christian Alistair, I don't want it. He is the definition of if he wanted to, he would. He literally went to therapy because of this woman. He wore a hair tie of hers on his wrist for 3 years. He would not stop thinking about this woman for years. Gianna must be the most gorgeous person in the whole entire world because every thought that consumed him was Gianna. There was no other, there was nothing else. And the obsession that this man has for her is just diabolical because it's just so unfair to read that and not have that in my own life. Like that, it just unfair. You have Gianna. She's a part of this Italian mafia family. She's been married off a few times. She has her own personal family issues. Well, Christian, he is a federal agent and he's introduced in the first book as kind of like a dirty Fed. He's working with these mafia guys, these sleazy men. He is a like contract killer, basically, like cold-blooded psychopath. He literally hates on Gianna so much, but you can tell like he does it just to annoy her. I love Gianna so much. Christian being one of my favorite, like he's now like top 3 favorite book boyfriend. He is just absolute perfection. They have a long history, like an 8-year history with one another, and there's some like flashbacks every now and then, but it's mainly focused on the present tense and how they're trying to, like, their dynamic of just going back and forth, like banter for banter. It is so funny. I was crying laughing at the things that Gianna says. I don't know if you've ever seen NCIS, which is a naval TV show or whatever, but there was a character who was from Israel and she would get American sayings wrong and everyone would help correct her, and Gianna does the same thing in the book where she'll say like, I ran into a concrete wall. And then Christian will be the only one to correct her and say like, it's a brick wall. She'll just say these phrases and get like one word wrong and then he'll jump in and he always corrects her. There's not one time where she says a phrase wrong and he doesn't say anything. Like he always has to correct her and it's so funny. I love it so much. Their relationship is just so perfect and the yearning that he does is just perfection. There are so many other book couples that I love, but these are the ones that particularly like stand out lot that I think about constantly. I want to hear your guys' like favorite book couples, different genres, whoever, because I want to keep expanding the books that I read. I know I haven't read a lot of like YA books, and I hear there's so many cute couples in YA stories, so I'm very excited to dive more into that. My world is an oyster again. Is that the saying? Which I don't really know what that means. Everything is infinite now that I'm out of a reading slump. It's like I can breathe fresh air again. It's like the sun is always shining and flowers are like perfectly blooming now. That's what I feel like when I get out of a reading slump. But I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please like and subscribe for more videos to come. If you want to follow me on any other social media platforms, I will have them linked down below in the description. And I hope to be seeing you in the next video. Bye!